Regular viewers of Motor Week know that one of our favorite performance cars is Chevrolet's Corvette ZR1. Since its debut in 1989, we've spent a good deal of time with our collective right foot planted firmly on the ZR1's gas pedal. We've always left the car wanting just one more turn behind the wheel. Well, since we couldn't think of a plausible reason to test the car again, we decided to take a closer look at the driving force behind the ZR1. The 4-cam, 32-valve aluminum wonder known as the LT5. Exhilarating, powerful, beastly, the ultimate American sports car. These have all been used to describe the Corvette ZR1, a car that any car company would be proud to call its own. So it may come as a bit of a surprise that the heart of this beast, the all-aluminum LT5 engine, is made by Mercury, the folks famous for marine engines. But this is not as crazy as it may sound. The job was simply too small for Chevy's own engine plants, which crank out thousands of units a day. To retool a factory for a mere 3,000 or so a year would be just too expensive. Enter Mercury, a division of Mercury Marine, a company with a reputation for quality engine work, lots of high-tech equipment, and most importantly, over 40 years' experience in working with aluminum. It was the perfect answer for Chevrolet. So they set the ball rolling, and production began about 3 years ago at Mercury's facility in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Components arrived for the LT5 from all over, but don't get the idea that Mercury merely assembles these engines. With hundreds of complex milling and machining operations to be carried out, these massive computerized milling machines begin a precisely choreographed ballet of drill bits and grinders. This is where those years of aluminum fabrication experience start to pay off. It's here that some 95% of the drilling, boring, and machining necessary for the LT5 is performed. And through it all, tolerances are maintained to within plus or minus 7 microns. That's about 1/10 the thickness of a human hair. Tolerances are checked at each station and periodically by one of these robotic measuring machines, which use a pressure-sensitive probe to check precise dimensions. To maintain these tolerances, the temperature of the metal must be closely regulated during all phases of the operation. Technician Al Kersey explains.
Because aluminum, especially aluminum, will change its shape and size due to temperature change. The coolant absorbs heat from the parts as the parts are being machined. So the coolant temperature is really critical.
To finish up the milling process, parts are cleaned and run through a deburring machine, which resembles a giant paint shaker full of plastic cones, guaranteed to smooth out even the roughest edges. Heads, valve covers, and intake plenums are powder-coated and baked, and then the finishing touches applied. The secret formula here, ordinary barbecue grill paint. The LT5 really starts to take shape in the final assembly area. Here, everything from seating the valves and pistons to torquing down the heads and adding the wiring harness is completed. A surprising amount of the work is done by hand, and most workers are proficient in several jobs. Instruction books at each station permit workers to pick up a new skill quickly. As each engine is finished, it is placed on a special cart and rolled into the dyno room for a thorough checkup. Each LT5 is put through its paces for about an hour, undergoing tests ranging from half-throttle cruising to full-power blast. But our story doesn't end here. Being, after all, a marine engine company, it didn't surprise us to learn that Mercury had secured 2 LT5s for themselves. One pulls this shiny red ZR1, which in turn pulls around this snazzy wave-skipping boat, powered by, you guessed it, an LT5. Altered slightly for marine use, this LT5 pumps out a healthy 420 horsepower, enough to rocket the Wet Vet, a 24-foot Baja sport boat, to an estimated 80 miles per hour. With its lipstick red interior and 640-watt sound system, the Wet Vet is definitely a showstopper, which is unfortunately where it spends most of its time. The brainchild of Fred Kiefer, president of Mercury High Performance, the Wet Vet has made the rounds at major boat shows across the country. Luckily, we managed to be on hand for one of its rare forays into the water. We were not disappointed. There are no plans to market the Wet Vet at this time, but maybe if we all say pretty please, well, who knows?